Hi, my name is Naman, and in this video I'm going to share 50 tips on vibe coding, which is when a developer uses AI to write software and build applications. Vibe coding can take development to a different level of ease, efficiency, and productivity, but only if done the right way. It all depends on how you do it. In this video, I'm going to be using Replit Agent as my AI vibe coding tool, but you can use any other vibe coding tool. The video starts off with the most basic and simple best practices and tips, and moves on to more advanced and complex tips as the video progresses. The first tip I have is to use AI to improve your prompt. Now there's a lot of different ways that you can do that, for example, this improved prompt feature right over here. So for example, let's say I want to build a fitness tracker app. So build a fitness tracker app with a black and blue color scheme. So that's a very simple prompt and it doesn't have a lot of details. Now if I use this AI feature and I improve the prompt, now what it's going to do is it's going to make it a much more detailed and thorough prompt, which you can see right over here. So now it's saying a web-based fitness tracker application that helps users monitor their workout progress and fitness goals with a sleek black and blue color scheme. And then it describes all of the core features, the visual references like Nike Training Club, and then it gives us the style guide for how to design the app. So it is a much more detailed prompt for the AI, and this results in much better outputs, much better applications, and much better vibe coding. You can also use ChatGPT to generate prompts for vibe coding. So for example, if I want to create a customer relationship management dashboard, I can say, I want to make a CRM dashboard with AI. Give me a prompt that results in a very good app. Make it detailed and thorough. And I hit enter, and now ChatGPT is going to give me a detailed prompt that I can give my vibe coding tool. So as you can see, there is the prompt, and it is a much better prompt than what we would write ourselves. So this is the entire prompt, it's very detailed, and it's exactly what we would want in a CRM dashboard. Now you can use other AI tools as well, like Gemini or Copilot or whatever you want, but you can use external AI tools to generate prompts for vibe coding. You should always try to get the AI to take inspiration from pre-existing apps that are similar to the ones that you want to build. For example, if I'm building an app for a company that sells cars, I can say, take inspiration from Honda's website, so that it uses that as inspiration while building our app. Or if I'm building a website for a company that sells smartphones, I can say take inspiration from Apple's website, or take inspiration from Samsung's website. So you always want to give the AI somewhere it can take inspiration and reference from. Another thing that is really important is to make sure that you're very comfortable with whatever vibe coding AI tool you're using. For example, there's a lot of different vibe coding AI tools out there, like Replit, Lovable, Bolt.new, A0.dev, Cursor, and many others. So based on what kind of apps you're trying to build, your level of experience, and a lot of other things, you should choose which one you want to use. Now, Replit is one thing that I recommend for beginners because it's very simple and easy to try hands-on. There's also Lovable, which is also very nice. It works similar to Replit. Then there's Bolt.new, which I would recommend if you're a little bit more advanced, and the same for A0.dev. And Cursor, I'd recommend if you're a very advanced developer or you have some coding background and you're interested in building heavy, high-level applications. Now, the best way to find out what is best for you is to keep on experimenting with all of these different vibe coding AI tools. So try them out for yourself and make that decision. For the most accurate and efficient results when you're vibe coding, you should always try to add visual representation of what you're trying to build. So for example, when I'm building this landmark app similar to Google Maps, I can attach this image to my prompt. So I can attach this image to the AI, and I can add that to my message. This helps the AI to understand what exactly I'm looking for and helps me build a better application with AI. Now, there are a few very important things that you want to take care of when you're building an app with AI. The first is you should always have a very good understanding of what's going on behind the scenes, even if you haven't written the code or built the application yourself. So what you can do is you can head to your vibe coding tool, and for example, this is one app that I've built with AI. Now I can say, explain how the app works to me in detail. All right, So what the AI is now going to do is it's now going to explain to you everything that's going on within the app. And this is very good to have a constant understanding of what's going on within the application. So whenever you're vibe coding any app, in between, you should always keep asking the AI for status updates and explanations as to what everything is. This works with every vibe coding tool, and it's a very good practice to make sure that you're always in control and you always have an understanding. So it's going to explain everything, how the app works. And so as you can see for this app, it's saying that all information comes directly from Wikipedia and real geographic coordinates and distances, live data updates. So it's basically explaining how the entire app works, what everything is, and how it all has been built. So this is very important when you're building an app. Always make sure you know what's going on behind the scenes, and the best way you can do that is by asking the AI directly. When you're vibe coding, you always want to try to add new features to your app, and one of the best ways to come up with ideas for new features is to ask the AI. So here I can say, suggest some ideas for new features that I can add to the app, and hit enter, and the AI is actually going to give you a variety of ideas for different features and additions that you can add to the app. So as you can see, it's giving me ideas like dark mode, enhanced filters, favorite system, and it's even going to offer to implement them. So it's all very cool, and it gives you a lot of suggestions. So it's saying which type of feature interests you most. I could start with something complex or simple like the favorite system, or jump into a more complex feature. So all you have to do is to just mention which feature you want, and it's going to build that out for you. So always try and use the AI for more ideas for different features and then implement them within your app. After you've reached a basic minimum version of your app and you're at the stage where you keep on reiterating with small new features within your app through vibe coding, you want to make sure that your prompts are as simple, straightforward, and short as possible. You don't want to overload the prompt. You want to tackle one feature or change at a time. So for example, if in the app I want to add dark mode and I want to remove this button both at the same time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in separate prompts for each. So first I'm going to tell the AI add dark mode, and then after that's complete, I'm going to, in a separate prompt, tell the AI to remove that button. So smaller prompts is equal to better output because the AI can focus and narrow down onto one task. Now, this is more of a personal tip and something that I do personally when I'm vibe coding, and it's basically maintaining a prompt journal. And what that basically does is it gives me a history of prompts that worked and prompts that didn't, and I can use that as reference when I'm building my next application or future applications. And it really does help because you get an understanding and a reference of what has worked and what hasn't. So over time, it develops into something that you can use for very efficient prompting. So if I head back over to my vibe coding tool, I have something written for you, which is basically maintain a log of what worked and what didn't. So it's not just the prompts that worked, but also the prompts that did not work, and reuse your best prompts as templates for your future projects. So if I'm building a website today for one company, but I'm building a website tomorrow for a different company, the prompt can still be the same with just a couple of minor changes, and I'll be assured that the prompt works because it has worked in the past. And over time, your style will evolve into a powerful library, and that is something that I can completely vouch for. Whenever building an app with AI, you should always try to prompt like a designer and not like a coder. So what I mean by that is, tell the AI what you want, not how to build it. Describe the outcome and not instructions. So for example, if I want to build an e-commerce website, all I'm going to say is, build me a super good looking e-commerce website. And I'm not going to describe what to build it with. I'm not going to say use HTML, CSS, or other stuff. I'm simply going to tell it what I want, and I'm going to let the AI decide what tech stack to use. And that's really efficient in most cases because you're letting the AI understand what your requirement is and build based on that requirement rather than limiting the AI to a particular coding language or a particular framework. So always prompt like a designer and not like a coder, and describe outcomes and not instructions to the AI. If you're looking to build very strong applications through vibe coding that don't crash, one thing that you should always do is ask the AI to criticize its own work. So whenever it generates code, ask it, what are the possible bugs, inefficiencies, improvements, or errors that could arise in this code? And this is surprisingly effective. So all you have to do is just tell the AI, well, what issues could this code come up with? What bugs could I face within this app? And the AI is very good at analyzing its own code, and it will give you all of the things that could come up. And then you simply ask it to solve that, and AI solves those errors and makes sure that they don't happen. When you're vibe coding an app that is going to be used by multiple users, you need some way to store their data. Now there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, but one way that I really like is to add a database. So as you can see here, I can create a database to keep user data persistent. And this is a feature that's inbuilt with Replit and a lot of other vibe coding tools. So for example, if you're using Lovable, you can connect Supabase, or you can do a lot of different alternatives just to store user data. So this is one thing that is very important while vibe coding. Make sure that there is a proper backend that stores all of the data for your users so that your app does not crash or malfunction. One of the best practices as a developer is to make sure that your app is compatible with all sorts of devices, and there's a lot of ways that you can test that. So in your vibe coding tool, you click on a screen size button. Now this can come in different forms, shapes, and sizes in different tools, but you're going to see something that allows you to test with different devices. So you can go through all of the different devices here, and you can test with each and every single one of them. So for example, if I want to test how my app would look on an iPhone 16 Pro Max, all I have to do is click it, and it's going to show me that. If I want to see how it's going to look on Pixel 9, I can do that. Samsung Galaxy, iPhone SE, you can see all of the different views on the different applications and phones. So this is also something that I find very useful when I'm building an application that is going to be used by users across different devices. Now, one thing that a lot of people do when testing the apps that they make with vibe coding is that they just keep on looking at the app within the vibe coding studio. But one thing that all vibe coding tools usually offer is a feature to see how it would look to actual users. So you can open it up in a dev URL and see your app actually in action in a way that it would appear to a user. And it's a much better way to get a comprehensive understanding of what your app is like, how it works, and everything that you can do within it. Whenever you're building an app with AI, you're still bound to face many errors that you need to debug. Now the best way to fix that is to simply tell the AI whatever error you're facing. So I am facing XYZ error, please fix it. And the AI should fix it for you, and 99% of the times this does work because the AI is very good at debugging code. But just in case this doesn't work, one of the best practices is describe exactly what you expected versus what happened. And that gives the AI an underlying understanding of what's supposed to happen and what's not happening, and it fixes that on its own. So you're basically pointing the AI in the right direction for debugging rather than telling it exactly what to do, but it's a much more efficient way in case the first way doesn't work. Now let's envision a hypothetical scenario. Let's say you're building an app, and as you're progressing, you realize that you liked a previous version of the app more than what you've reached right now. Now how do you go back to that? Do you unwind each of the features that you've added individually? Well, there's one thing that you can do that's a lot better that a lot of vibe coding tools offer, and it's a feature called Rollback, which allows you to go back to a previous version of the app. So if I click on Rollback, what it does is it resets my app to this original version or this previous version of the app. So every time you make a change, before you make the change, the vibe coding tool will save what you've done until then, so that in the future, if you want to go back to that exact position in the app, you can do so. So this is really good to get back to a stable state where if your app goes in the wrong direction, you can always come back to one version of the app that was working originally. Another thing that you can do is, if your app is not working with one particular AI vibe coding tool, you can always test it out with a different tool. So for example, this is Firebase Studio, which is another AI vibe coding tool, but it was developed by Google and it's completely free. So if, let's say, one of my other vibe coding tools is not able to produce the output of the app that I want, I can always try it out with a different AI. So I can use the same prompts, I can maybe change the prompts, but the point is there are numerous AI vibe coding tools that I can try the same thing from. And eventually, learning from each and every single failure with different AI tools, you will succeed in building your app with one of them. So that's the beauty of vibe coding. It's super fast, so you can keep reiterating and pivoting very quickly. Sometimes when you're really sure about the tech stack that you want to use, what you can do is you can narrow down the AI's development to particular languages. So you can either do that in the form of a prompt. For example, if I say, make me a website with a Python backend, and then you can describe your website as well. But the main thing here is that we're specifying the backend. Now you're only supposed to do this when you're 100% sure that there's nothing else that you want, and this would be the best way for you to move forward with your website. So this is one way to do that, by including it in the prompt. And the second way you can do this is by clicking on this and choosing this, websites with Python backend. Or if you're building a game, then you can choose this. If you're building an interactive data app, then this, and a modern web app, then this. So these are 5 different ways you can build apps with AI, and a lot of different vibe coding tools have their own sets of these. If they don't, then you can just include that in the prompt. One thing that can really help you is to get involved with the vibe coding community. So there's a lot of people that are interested in vibe coding, that are talking about vibe coding and sharing a lot of knowledge with vibe coding related topics every single day on YouTube and on different forums like Dev and Stack Overflow. Like for example here they're talking about Firebase Studio and the rollback feature, whether or not that's in Firebase Studio as well, which we discussed earlier on in the video. So there's a lot of stuff going on within the scope of vibe coding, and it's really good if you get involved because you're going to stay up to date with everything that's happening in vibe coding, and you're going to stay aware of the best practices as they come out as well. A lot of vibe coding tools offer the feature for a plan. So a plan is basically an AI telling you what it's going to build and asking for your approval before it starts building the app. So as you can see here, over here I asked the AI to build a good looking website for my company that makes drones. And now the AI has presented a plan. So one thing that a lot of people overlook here is actually reading through the plan and all of the different features that the plan suggests and proposes. But it gives you a very good idea of the direction that the agent is going to move forward in. So I would vehemently recommend that you read through the plan thoroughly and you delete the features that you don't want, you remove them, and you can add features that you do want, you can edit the plan, but you want to play around with the plan because it is the direction that the app starts in. As you can see here, it's given us a visual preview of what our website may or may not look like, but is probably going to look like, and I think it's pretty cool. So I'm going to approve the plan and we'll move forward with this particular website. One of the best practices that you should always try to follow through with is to make sure that you're aware of all of the different files so that you can actually properly file manage later on once you're publishing the application or moving the application across different platforms. You want to know all of the different files that are there within your app and all of the files that are responsible for your app actually being functional. So you can click on each and every single one of these files and actually see all of the different stuff that those files contain. You can copy that code, you can paste it somewhere else. So this is all accessible to you, and it's very important that you actually look at what's going on. So for example, this TypeScript file, you can see all of the code within it, and you can do that for each and every single one of these files as well. So that's very, very important. Something that I've understood after vibe coding multiple apps is that if you try to monitor each and every single step of the AI and give it very, very specific instructions every single step of the way, you're not going to let the AI use its own intuition to come up with something really, really good. What I mean by that is, a lot of times when I describe my idea to an AI, it builds an app that was even better than what I had imagined. And that's because the AI accesses a lot of pre-existing resources, its own thought, and develops something that is much better than what we describe. So if you actually manually try to control everything that the AI is doing and simply just use it as an implementation feature or an implementation tool just to bring those features to life, that's okay. But I believe that to harness and to unleash the full power of vibe coding, you want to let the AI do something sometimes. So just describe what you want, describe the vibe of what you want, like how you want your app to feel, how you want your website to look, the tone of the website and the app, and describe that, describe the vibe, and then let the AI come up with the best ways to build it, and then let the AI build it. For me, that's what has worked best. Now, a very common recommendation when vibe coding is to make sure that you specify the users of your app to the AI. So unless your AI knows who's going to use the app that it's building, it's not going to be able to build an app that's tailored to that exact user. So for example, if I'm building an app for children, like an educational app, then I want to specify that in the prompt. So when I'm saying build me XYZ app, then I can say the users will be children in schools for learning purposes. And once you do that, the AI basically gets a broader scope and broader understanding of what the actual objective is. So this is one thing that's very important. No matter what app you're building, make sure you specify who the users of that particular app will be.